Hey guys, and once again welcome back to my channel. This is Mukami, the environmentalist. So I promised you today we're going to talk about greenhouse effect, how it happens, and now this is how it causes climate change. So you're going to ask me, what is greenhouse effect? Now here in Kenya we have people who are doing agriculture using a greenhouse. True? So greenhouse farming, let's start with farming, is whereby you are doing agriculture, you're planting your tomato, but now you're doing it inside that house which is covered by, say, a paper. True? Now that paper has encroached or has enveloped the plants you are planting. And why? This has its benefit. For example, maybe reduces the direct light or the sunshine from the sun does not hit your crops directly. It keeps the place warm. True? Now that is greenhouse in farming. The same thing happens with us in this world. For example, you find we have the earth. Now on the earth we have the air that surrounds us. True? All around us there is a big layer, a thick layer of air. That is the atmosphere. There are so many, we shall not get into that, but we know air usually surrounds us. So between the earth, the ground, and the sun, there is a layer of gas that surrounds us. True? The air we are breathing, where the aeroplanes fly, and vitu kama hizo. So that is the atmosphere. Now what happens is that atmosphere acts like the greenhouse window in the farm. That layer of air surrounding the earth is the one that prevents the sun coming directly and hitting us here on the ground. Now it keeps us warm. It traps some heat to keep us warm so that we can be able to survive. You have heard that there are those other planets that are very cold. Some are very hot. But now we have the air around us that envelops us and prevents us from that direct sunshine, and of course it maintains or retains some heat that is able to heat up the earth, and we are able to survive, both human beings, animals, and plants. Now where is the problem then? The problem comes in on who traps that heat that is retained. The heat around the atmosphere is retained, is trapped and retained by some air particles. Now these particles retain heat, like we have said, that helps the world to keep warm. So the earth is warm enough to sustain heat. Somebody is getting what I'm saying? Now then, the problem comes when the amount of particles that trap heat increase. Once they increase, it means they're going to trap more heat. True? Now assuming we have particles of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. In the air we have carbon dioxide. Initially it is just enough to trap heat that comes from the sun, inaingia kwa the atmosphere ya hewa. Kwa hiyo the air around the earth, it traps heat that is enough to keep us warm, to keep the waters warm, the animals warm, and they are just good to survive. But now the atmosphere changes so that there is now an increased number of carbon dioxide. Okay, if there were 1 million, there are now 3 million. There are so many, just an example. So it means the more they increase, the more heat they are going to trap. And so what happens in return is that now the heat that has been trapped in the atmosphere increases. True? Now all that heat, remember, this is an envelope, it is a greenhouse. You're already inside that greenhouse. The greenhouse becomes hot. Now we as the animals, the plants, are now here. The envelope is here, the atmosphere is here, and the sun is there. So inside here, the atmosphere has trapped so much heat, so you're going to feel the effect. Okay, because now the air becomes very hot. Now that is what is the atmospheric heat temperature. It increases, so the air here increases. Now, assuming temperatures increase, what happens to the ice that we have in the waters? They start to melt. What happens when they melt? The moment they melt, that water goes downstream to the sea, to the oceans. True? Now, if assuming the ocean was to this level, from here all this was ocean, now the ice has melted, it has come down as water, so this water is going to increase, so that now if the beaches were here, now they are here. So the beach around the oceans decrease. The mangrove forest that we have, assuming there was an extension of a mangrove for 3 kilometers, now the water is increasing, so the water levels in the ocean are rising, so the land that is next to the ocean is being covered by the waters. You getting? The ocean starts to rise because the ice has melted. Why has it melted? Because the temperature in the air has increased. That is the atmospheric temperature. It has increased. And why has it increased? Because the particles, the air particles, the gases that trap heat have increased. How did they increase? One of the reasons they increase is our activities. We human beings, what do? The activities that we are undertaking are the ones that are increasing these gases, increasing these particles that trap heat. A good example is carbon. Carbon dioxide is there too. It is very useful, and it is very useful to trap the heat that we need. But now we are releasing it in very, very, very high rates. So now the amount of carbon dioxide that we have in the atmosphere increases. So it increases the amount of heat it traps. So which are these activities? For example, one of it is that increases carbon dioxide is burning of fossil fuel. Like for example, this fuel has been stored. It's quite some process. This oil, before we get petroleum, it is underground. True? These are organic animals, like the animals, the plants that were there a long time ago. They have been pressed under pressure until they form the petroleum that we have. Now, that happened many, many years ago. We as human beings and animals, we have carbon within us. True? So once we die and we have been buried and now we are starting to be compressed, that carbon we retain it. So it is now deep in the earth. But now, because it has turned into carbon, what we do is we drill to get the petroleum. As we bring out the petroleum so that we can use it in our vehicles, in our industries, in our everything, that carbon that had been stored underneath now has been brought to the surface. True? Now, if we use petroleum, say for example in a meal, we use petroleum or diesel, what does it do? It burns that carbon, mixing it with oxygen. Now, this is chemistry or some physics. You don't need to get that technical part. So that now, that carbon that had been stored down there is now in the atmosphere, has been exposed to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Okay? So now, the amount that was already in the atmosphere has increased because we have exposed carbon that had been stored underground to the atmosphere. But that, of course, is through our activities, because we needed the diesel, the petroleum to run our cars, to run our industries, and stuff like that. The other one, we have cut down trees. We have finished the forest. What happens? You see that big trunk of a tree? It has stored so much carbon inside it. Carbon dioxide is the most notorious element that usually trap a lot of heat. So that is why you hear everybody talking about carbon sinks, carbon. It is the most notorious. And is of course the one that is most produced by human activities. So that trunk has stored a lot of carbon in it. That that trunk that we usually pasua to get mbao. Now, we have cut down, when we cut down, we have now exposed that thing to decay. True, we're either going to use that timber to make a bed, to make a seat, to make a house, and then of course with the time it starts to decay, and all this goes back to the atmosphere. This tree, it is used to take in carbon dioxide. Remember, photosynthesis, it takes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere so that it can make food that is stored. So it is used to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that we had in the atmosphere. But if we cut it, who is going to take that carbon dioxide that we do not need in the atmosphere? So the more we have cleared trees, we have cut trees, we have finished forest, the more we lack somebody to take the carbon dioxide for us from the atmosphere. And what had already been stored in form of biomass in the trees, we export it to the atmosphere to decay and release the carbon to the atmosphere. Now, I hope I'm making it simple. That is how it happens. That is the greenhouse effect. What we are doing here, we're releasing elements that go to the atmosphere and trap a lot of heat. So like you have seen, all this carbon is released into the atmosphere, and then of course it keeps trapping more heat that we don't need. Now, those are just examples of activities that human beings take or carry on that causes increase in the atmospheric temperature at the end. Now, there are so many other activities that keep happening. Some of them are natural. Some of them, of course, the main ones are human or man-made. So we shall look at those functions, but also we need to look at the gases that cause this atmospheric temperature. Now, I wanted to show you, I wanted to make sure I've mentioned now when the atmospheric temperature has increased, then that is how it leads to variation in different places of the world. Okay, now temperatures have increased, so some places will be drier than the others. For example, in a forest, the temperature has increased, the amount of water that is going to evaporate from the soil as well as from the trees is going to increase. True. So then the wind comes and carries away those clouds that have formed, so that rain falls somewhere else. So now what happens, as more water is evaporating, it is going to the atmosphere, so more rain is going to increase in some places. Some places, the more water is evaporating. For example, I am trying to show you how atmospheric temperature increasing relates to the effect or the evidences that we have seen, or the results that we have seen are coming from the changing climate. So, for example, temperatures have increased, the rate of evaporation have increased from, say, a forest, a water tower like Maui. More water is evaporating than is being retained. So what happens? The streams that come from Mau are going to reduce in volume. True, because so much water has been lost. Okay, so then you find in some places rain is going to be more than it is now. What happens? You see, it is a cycle. What happens if rains are more? People are going to do more agriculture, more industry setups and stuff. So they are going to pollute the environment more. They are going, all this happens. That is a small link of how these things come and end up to the climate changing. Okay, so it is that simple. The more we produce these greenhouse gases, I will link them down here so that you can see all the greenhouse gases, which of course these greenhouse gases include the water vapor, it includes the carbon dioxide, it includes methane, it includes nitrous oxide, and the common chlorofluorocarbons, just among them. Those are just a few. There are so many. So that one, they increase the temperatures in the atmosphere that usually bring so many disasters. So in the next video, I want to tell you, and give you real examples of how these changes and climate change is causing or is affecting different sectors of this country, specifically here in Kenya. To start with, we shall look at agricultural sector. How is climate change affecting agricultural sector, both positively and negatively. So I will see you in that video. So give this video thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you then. Let me know something down, note something in the comment section so that I'll get you there and we shall talk more about climate change. Till then, keep safe and God loves you.